James Burton has finally broken decades of silence to open up about his time with Elvis Presley. At 85, the man who stood shoulder to shoulder with the king of rock and roll is now revealing the private truths behind the spotlight, the moments fans never got to see, the kind of man Elvis truly was, and the heartbreaking details of his final days. For years, James kept those memories tucked away. But now he's ready to speak, not just as a guitarist but as a witness to history. From the very start, James Burton was no ordinary musician. Born in the small town of Dubberly, Louisiana in 1939, James found a calling in music that didn't require formal lessons or expensive instruments. He was self-taught, guided by instinct and a passion that poured out through his fingertips. That guitar wasn't just a hobby, it became part of who he was. By his teenage years, James had already caught the attention of music insiders. He landed a spot on the Louisiana Hayride, the same radio show that gave a young Elvis Presley his start. Even then, people knew there was something different about the boy with the guitar. He had something you couldn't teach: soul, precision, and a raw connection to the music. Before he was even 18, James left his southern roots behind and moved to Los Angeles. There, he joined teen idol Ricky Nelson's band, quickly rising from rhythm guitarist to the lead. His work helped shape Nelson's signature rockabilly sound. But long before that, James had already made history. In 1957, he created the unforgettable guitar riff for Susie Q. Though he didn't receive proper credit or royalties, the song became a cornerstone of rock music, and James' riff lived on as one of the most iconic of all time. Through the 1960s, James became the go-to session guitarist for some of the biggest names in music. He played behind the scenes, adding his magic to songs by Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Emmylou Harris, and John Denver. His style could shift from country to rock, folk to pop, always elevating the sound without stealing the spotlight. In time, the industry began to recognize his brilliance. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001, with Keith Richards himself giving the speech. Later came honors from the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, the Musicians Hall of Fame, and finally in 2024 the Country Music Hall of Fame. To Rolling Stone magazine, he ranked among the top 25 greatest guitarists of all time, not for flashy solos but for a tone and feel no one else could replicate. But James Burton's most defining chapter began when Elvis came calling. In 1969, Elvis Presley was planning his return to live performance with a Las Vegas residency. He needed a band that could match his charisma, and a guitarist he could trust completely. Elvis wanted James, and this time James said yes. He didn't just join the band, he helped build it. James handpicked a group of elite musicians who would become known as the TCB Band, short for Taking Care of Business, Elvis's personal motto. From that point forward, James led the band as Elvis's right-hand man on stage. Elvis and James formed an instant connection. Every night in front of packed houses, Elvis would turn with a grin and shout, "Play it, James!" And every time James delivered flawlessly. His pink Paisley Fender Telecaster became as much a part of the show as the jumpsuits and rhinestones. Elvis loved the bold look of it. That guitar and that sound helped define the energy of Elvis's final years. For nearly a decade, James was by Elvis's side. They played hundreds of shows together. Between tours, James still found time to work with other legends and even released his own solo album in 1971. But whenever Elvis hit the road, James was there. That loyalty ran deep. He even joined Emmylou Harris's acclaimed hot band in the mid-70s but always returned when Elvis called. Unlike some who drifted away, James stayed, through the highs, the chaos, and the fading health. By the summer of 1977, things had changed. Elvis was no longer the vibrant performer the world remembered. His health was declining rapidly. He was exhausted, in pain, and visibly unwell. Still, he refused to stop performing. That's where he felt most alive. James, loyal as ever, stayed right there with him, guitar in hand, standing close, watching. The final show happened on June 26, 1977, in Indianapolis. Elvis pushed through the pain, giving everything he had. He smiled, he sang, and just like always, he turned and shouted, "Play it, James!" That would be the last time. After the show, there were no long goodbyes. It was just another end to another tour. Elvis was planning to rest at Graceland before heading out again. James flew home, assuming they'd be back on stage together in a few weeks. But that day never came. On August 16, 1977, James got the call. Elvis had been found unresponsive in his Graceland bathroom by his girlfriend, Ginger Alden. Despite efforts to revive him, the king of rock and roll was gone. He was only 42 years old. The news hit James hard. A friend, a partner, and a legend had been lost. And though James wasn't with him in those final moments, he carries a different kind of farewell. The last time they played together, the last smile, the last play at James. For James, that was the goodbye that mattered most. In the years since, James Burton has continued to share his music and honor Elvis's legacy. But it's clear that those years on stage with the king were more than just a job. They were a bond between two men who understood each other without needing to say much. One led with his voice, the other with 6 strings. Together, they made history. And though Elvis is gone, the music lives on. Every time someone hears that guitar sing,